Put the gun down! Drop it!
Growing up a kid in the 90s, I think I can speak for all the people from that era that we were spoiled for choice regarding toys and animated shows. Chief amongst them, personally for me, was the G.I. Joe franchise. This series followed a cast of colourful characters who were all part of this elite counter-terrorist group that sought to save America and the world from the evil machinations of the Cobra organization and its leader, Cobra Commander. While every G.I. Joe member had a cool gimmick, I found myself personally drawn to the character of Lady Jaye. While she might not have the coolest gadgets or the craziest design, what she had in spades was this air of mystique that surrounded her. Jaye is probably the most important member of the squad thanks to her tactical skills along with her espionage abilities, in my opinion.
She is able to infiltrate locations with ease, allowing for the Joes to gather intel and set up critical missions that would otherwise be impossible to carry out. Over the years, as the stories have continued to evolve, Lady Jaye has been portrayed in a number of ways as well. In this video, I intend to cover every origin of G.I. Joe's master of covert warfare, so that by the end of it, you will know everything there is to know about this iconic character. So without wasting any more time, let's begin. Who is Lady Jaye, and what is her official Hasbro file card origin? The G.I. Joe franchise has no shortage of female badasses who can do it all while looking fabulous as hell. My personal favourite over the years has been the team's covert operations specialist, codenamed Lady Jaye, serial number 853716749. According to her official Hasbro file card, Lady Jaye's real name is Allison R. Hart Burnett, and she was born in Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, America. I think some sources also state that she was born in Cork, Ireland, but the early information is mostly accepted by fans. The future Master Spy would go on to study at a liberal arts college in Pennsylvania, USA called Bryn Mawr. After graduating from there with distinction, Jaye would do her graduate work at the famous Trinity College of Dublin, Ireland. There she would hone her thespian chops and begin to develop into an accomplished actress. I mean, basically, Jaye was destined to be a great actress, but that was not quite the route that she had envisioned for herself. Instead of turning her attention towards Hollywood or Broadway, Allison would join the intelligence school at Fort Holabird. She would then go on to join the Airborne and Rangers, proving that she was more than just a pretty face who could act. But wait, I'm not done yet. Lady Jaye is also a qualified expert when it comes to the use of weapons like the M16 assault rifle, the M1911A1 automatic pistol, and a trusty reflex crossbow. According to the file card, Lady Jaye holds the rank of Staff Sergeant E6 within the organisation. I believe she is one of the only members of the G.I. Joe who is so decorated in terms of her qualifications. Her impersonation skills are supposed to be so deadly and precise that she has no use for face masks and other elaborate disguises. Instead, she relies on her uncanny ability to mimic her target down to the minute details, like their subtle movements, habits, and voice. I read that thanks to her acting abilities and fluency in several languages, she could, for instance, squat in the middle of a Middle Eastern marketplace with a basket of oranges, and none would be the wiser about her identity. As you'll see later in this video, most of the other origins usually use this original one as their base before they begin to diverge. So allow me to take you through the rest of her origins now. Where and when does Lady Jaye first appear in the Marvel Comics, and what is the context of her introduction? Following the success of the toy line, Marvel Comics would jump into the mix and begin publishing comics for G.I. Joe. They would start with the G.I. Joe A Real American Hero comic book series, which would begin publishing in 1982 and run all the way to 1994, for a total of 155 issues, I believe. This comic book series greatly expands on the G.I. Joe lore and world building, weaving much more complex narratives and character development. Lady Jaye would make her appearance in this comic book series in issue number 32 in February 1985 to be precise. Her very first introduction is already action-packed, as she is caught in a dogfight alongside Ace against Wild Weasel and the Baroness. As the two groups fight their way into a stalemate, despite both the Baroness and Lady Jaye demanding the fight to continue, their pilots withdraw mutually. I almost forgot to mention that in her debut in this series, Lady Jaye is referred to as Lady Jaye, which might be a small but nonetheless noteworthy change from the original. Lady Jaye joins the G.I. Joes during a transitional phase of the group, alongside another fellow agent called Ripcord, to fill in the holes left behind by Grunt and Scarlet due to them being no longer active and taking on a lesser role respectively. Despite being fresh blood, Lady Jaye immediately asserts her personality upon the group, showing that she was far more from a nervous recruit. In fact, I think you can say that her level of self-assuredness almost borders on being overconfident. However, we all know that it is anything but that, because what seems like overconfidence is actually the ultimate faith she has in her own abilities. What I loved was the fact that not for 1 second does Lady Jaye look out of place, joining the world's most elite counter-terrorist outfit. Soon everyone, including Cobra and her own new teammates, would find out just how capable and deadly she truly was. How does the Sunbow cartoon actually introduce Lady Jaye, and why is she notable in that continuity? While doing my research for this video, I came across something really interesting about the origins of Lady Jaye before the toys even came out or she made her debut in the comic book. Now you must be wondering, how can a character based on a toy be featured somewhere before said toy has ever been created? This is where things get interesting in my opinion, because long before Hasbro created the figurine, Lady Jaye made her debut in the Sunbow cartoon's 1984 miniseries The Revenge of the Cobra in the episode In the Cobra's Pit. What's interesting to me is the fact that unlike in the Marvel series, where we get to see her join the G.I. Joes as a new recruit, in this she is already a fully fledged operational member of this squad. It is also worth noting in my opinion that Lady Jaye is arguably the second most featured character behind Cobra Commander himself in this series. I mean, considering the sheer size of the roster in the show, I think it's pretty noteworthy that she was given this much attention. There is also the fact that Jaye is shown to be in a romantic relationship with Warrant Officer Flint, a fellow member of the G.I. Joe. The show actually focuses on their dynamic a great deal and builds it up to be one of the cornerstones of the series. The series also insinuates that Lady Jaye is somehow related to the villain Destro during the episode Skeletons in the Closet, though they never explore it further, which I feel is such a shame. This series also laid heavy emphasis, I believe, on her espionage and tactical abilities, rather than turning her into a combat junkie, which obviously had an impact on her character later down the line. The Sunbow cartoon version of her character is important because the series actually fleshed out her character, personality and abilities long before Hasbro had even begun working on her action figure. They also were brave enough to give us a very prominent, strong female character by the 80s children cartoon show standards.
Who's Allison Hart Burnett?
That's mine. That's my real name.
Here you go.
What does Skeletons in the Closet reveal about Lady Jaye's bloodline, and why does it matter? As I said earlier, the episode Skeletons in the Closet reveals that Lady Jaye is somehow related to Destro of all people, so let me give you a brief lowdown on how this happens. The episode picks up with Lady Jaye receiving a letter stating that she had inherited a castle in Scotland, only to find that it originally belonged to Destro's clan. As the story progresses, we learn that Jaye possesses a hereditary mark that links her lineage to the same clans as Destro. What I find interesting is the fact that the characters in the series react like this is a very significant piece of information about Jaye and Destro. This is important because this episode was quite clearly geared to build and expand on not just her character, but also the greater lore of the G.I. Joe series, which makes it all the more perplexing to me when they chose to just do nothing more with this plot point. They never clarify the relationship. For all I know, they could be cousins. In fact, the very title Skeletons in the Closet implies that this is a hidden secret about Jaye and Destro's shared lineage, which could have massive ramifications on the clear moral demarcation we otherwise see throughout the show between the Cobras and the Joes. I mean, just think about it. A villain and a heroine sharing the same bloodline. The idea most certainly adds a different layer to the entire narrative. Interesting though this episode was, I think it's such a massive lost opportunity.
Enjoy your evening, Miss Vandervoort.
Who is Lady Jaye in G.I. Joe Retaliation, and how is her role different from every other version? Lady Jaye would finally make a big screen debut in the 2013 live-action film by Paramount Studios called G.I. Joe Retaliation. I think out of all the origin stories so far, this movie takes the greatest creative liberty, altering quite a bit of Jaye's backstory. The most significant thing they do is that they tie her motivation towards becoming a high-level army officer to a trauma she carries from early childhood regarding her father. You see, Jaye's father, who was an army man himself, had never forgiven her for being born as a woman, as he had wanted a son to carry on his legacy. Her father had always treated her in a dismissive manner, believing that as a woman, she would never be able to become truly great in the army. This had led to them having a strained relationship, with Jaye joining the armed forces with a chip on her shoulder to prove her father wrong. Her ultimate goal had been to make her old man salute her one day by outranking him. Unfortunately for Jaye, that day would never come, because her father would pass away before giving her that opportunity. I think we can all agree that Lady Jaye's father was not going to win the Father of the Year award anytime soon. Regardless of that, I feel we can all relate at some level to wanting to prove our worth to families to a certain degree. I love that the film added this layer to her character, even if it is a bit cliched. Lady Jaye would go on to join the American SEAL team, where she would earn distinction before being recruited to join the G.I. Joe. I'm sure you must have noticed how the film changes her path to the Joes as well by making her a SEAL. There are other similarly small changes that the film makes to Lady Jaye's characters that are worth noting in my opinion. Let's start with how the film completely removes her theatrical and acting background. I feel this is a major miss because in the original source material, this particular aspect is used to lend credence to why she's such a great covert operative. I guess it works out for the film because the next change they made is that she isn't really portrayed as this covert operative specialist. While she does pose as a Fox News reporter to infiltrate a conference to get close to the fake president, Jaye is shown to be more of an expert high-tech intel gatherer. There is also the fact that when the heroes visit General Joe Colton, the man who put together the G.I. Joe initiative, he greets Lady Jaye as Brenda, which probably means that her real name is not Allison, like in the source material. Regardless of these changes, I think Adrienne Palicki delivers a fairly decent portrayal of this character for her live-action debut on the big screen. Does Lady Jaye have a different origin in the UK Action Force continuity? In 1983, Marvel UK would attempt to replicate the success of the G.I. Joe series across the pond by shifting the characters and adapting the G.I. Joe formula to cater to a British audience. I believe this would lead them to create what they dubbed the Action Force, an elite counter-terrorist group just like the G.I. Joe. Unlike many characters who had their entire story changed or altered, Lady Jaye is pretty much left untouched for the most part of a few changes. Unlike the film, which referred to as Brenda, the Action Force continuity retains her original name, Allison R. Hart Burnett. I believe even her serial number 853716749 is kept the same along with her rank of Staff Sergeant. The series also continues to focus on her insane covert and espionage abilities, which once again does not need her to rely on elaborate disguises and face masks. Her acting and liberal arts background is almost kept intact, and Jaye is still fluent in numerous languages. The major difference here is the fact that Lady Jaye is no longer American, as her birthplace has changed from Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, to Cork, Ireland.
Where's my blue ribbon, Lady Jaye?
I have something better. Orders from above.
Who is Lady Jaye in G.I. Joe Renegades, and how is her role different from every other version? G.I. Joe Renegades is an animated show that aired from 2010 to 2011, and from what I remember, was quite an interesting reimagining of the franchise's lore. The story kicks off when a classified G.I. Joe mission goes sideways after 6 members of the squad, which includes the likes of Ripcord, Duke, Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Roadblock and Tunnel Rat, are accused of terrorism after an explosion at the Cobra Industries. Now on the run, the Joes are shown evading their former allies in the government, all the while trying to expose Cobra for what it truly is to the world. One of the people hunting the outlawed Joes is none other than Lady Jaye herself, alongside her long-term partner Flint. I like how the series portrays her as a somewhat jaded intelligence officer because she's torn between her duty to the government and the loyalty she feels towards Duke in particular. I feel that it is important to point out that unlike in the other continuities, Lady Jaye isn't ever explicitly stated to be a part of the G.I. Joes herself, which is fairly significant in my opinion. In the story she owes Duke a favour, and actually believes that the Renegades are actually telling the truth. Therefore, she takes on the role of playing a double agent, whereby she's operating within the system to aid Duke and co while acting like she's hunting them. I love how the series delivers the conflict between duty and loyalty raging within her, which acts as one of the central plot points of the entire series. Jaye is no longer that straight-laced prodigy who is unequivocally on the side of the good guys like in the other versions of the G.I. Joe franchise. Once again, I have to say I love how in this series the focus is on her surveillance and espionage abilities outside of her just being a master of disguise and impersonations. This has to be the most mature take on her character, in my opinion, and I think you should check it out as well, because I'd love to hear your opinions about it. To conclude, no matter what the origin story is behind her, or where the narrative places her in these tales, Lady Jaye continues to be a certified badass. While every Joe brings something unique to the table, I could argue that none of them do it to the extent that Lady Jaye does. Not only is she field certified in combat and tactics, Jaye can get into places that no other individual in the world could even hope to infiltrate. The fact that she doesn't have to rely on gimmicks to blend in only goes to show just how deadly her skills truly are. While other Joes might blow you up or cut you down, you won't even see the strike fall when it comes to Lady Jaye. The point that I'm trying to make is that while she might not be as flashy as her other comrades, she's equally if not more deadly than them. What do you think about Lady Jaye? Tell me in the comments below. For now though, it's time for me to say goodbye. I hope to see you soon on the next one. Until then, stay safe